Hello, hello. All right. Welcome. For those of you coming in live this morning, welcome to Reinvention Saturdays. Just want to plug this in here as you come live, as you join me. Excited to be hosting this moment this morning. Lovely. There we go. Yeah, I guess we're all situated. Thank you so much for all of you joining me live. It's a beautiful morning here in Nairobi. Oh, what do I have on my face? I'm good. It's a beautiful morning here in Nairobi, and just thank you so much for all of you who are coming in live. As you join me here today, Reinvention Saturdays are purely about adding value to you. They're about just sharing an idea and hoping that idea is going to create an a light bulb moment for you that will then create forward motion in your life. That is really my desire. And today I'm at home. I'm not in Naivasha. I'm not out of my town. I'm at home today and just excited to be coming to you live. Let's get started. Today's session is about embracing the future you. And really trying to help you in getting the clarity that is required about how do I go about creating that future that I want? How do I go about making a dent? If you think about outcomes in two ways, everyone in life desires impact and income. And that is what I really want to share with you here today about how do you create impact and income in terms of a future that you see. I bet that everyone joining me here today has got a future that they imagine will become possible for you. I am completely certain about that. There's a future that you believe is going to happen for you. There is an expectation that you have, that your tomorrow, your 2020, maybe around December, you're thinking about how life will be for you. You're thinking about the kind of impact that you will have made. You're thinking about the kind of income that you will have made in December of 2021. You're thinking about the next 10 years. You're thinking about the future of your children. You're thinking about the future of your business. You're thinking about your future, how you will be. You're thinking about, your spouse. You're thinking about your parents. You're thinking about everything in your life and how it will be tomorrow. And those two pillars that really allow us to make a dent and make an impact and make a difference rather is impact and income. Thank you so much to all of you who are joining us here today. We're talking about embracing the future you. I'd like you to like, comment, and share this video so that it can go out to as many people as possible. What do you do on Saturday mornings? It's about reinventing yourself and thinking about how your life can be better. And here I am, I'm in service of you, here to share with you an idea and heart that will create forward momentum and motion in your life. So thank you for tuning in. So I remember in 2002, in 2002, I am a young man, I'm in my 20s, and I met with this pastor, and I desired so much what he was doing because he was speaking and he was coaching and he was standing in front of a podium. And within me, I kind of knew that this is really what I want and desire for myself. This is what I want and desire for my future. So how am I going to make this a possibility? And I gravitated towards it. I didn't really know that I was doing such a powerful thing in my life, but I gravitated towards him, and I wanted to work and I wanted to serve and I wanted to be in that space. And so I went towards him. And some of the roles that I was given together with a buddy of mine called Sammy was every Wednesday evenings, the pastor used to have a midweek service in the city center. And the church was not in the city center. It was in the outskirts of the city. And so what we would do is we'd get this taxi and we would load the drums, the musical equipment, the keyboard, all that stuff, and the stands and the microphones. We would load all these things that we would need for that session at a podium, a small carpet, just all the stools, everything that we would need to go and do this meeting there. We would load it onto this taxi, and then we will go all the way to the city and set up. And because the meeting would end late, we would leave it in the hotel, go home, and the following morning, Sammy and myself would be there at the hotel, get another taxi, take all the things that we had carried before, put them into the taxi, and go back to the church. And we would do that every other week. That was my role. That was the thing I was doing at that time. And I remember one of these Wednesdays, we had just come in the morning. Wednesday now was the day we used to do the event. Thursday morning, we had just come into the hotel and we picked up all the equipment, microphones, stands, keyboard, drums, the whole thing. We loaded up into the car. And when we had just done everything, we've loaded and locked the boot, I told Sammy, hey, give me a minute because I don't know how the ride will be. I need to jump into the washroom. Cheeky me, I wasn't going to the washroom. I was going back to the hall where we had just taken equipment from. They had set up this hall ready for the day's events. There was going to be a meeting there. And so they had this number of seats in the meeting. The podium was set. The stage was ready. It was a room with about, I think, a capacity of about 150 people. So I went to the front of the podium and I held the podium with my hands and I looked at the podium and I said, wow, I am talking to these people. And in my mind's eye, I could visualize these people in the room, these people in the hall. And there I am. And I looked at the hall and I'm imagining, I'm seeing myself. This place is full of people and I'm talking to them and I'm speaking to them. And I said, wow, I desire this. This is the future that I want. Thank you so much for all of you who are joining. Click and like. Share this. This is the future that I want. And very quickly I said a prayer to God and I said, oh God, I would really desire if you could help me to make this dream a reality. This is the future I want. I don't know how I'm going to embrace it, but help me, dear God. Help me. Okay. Sammy was there. Benjamin, where are you? And Sammy came into the room and I ran out and I said, hey, Sammy, I'm back. I'm done. And so he said, come on quickly. This taxi guy is waiting for us, taking too much time. I said, okay, I'm done. And there we were. We ran down the stairs. We got into the London taxi and we went to church. And every other week I came in and I did that. But I held on to this dream. I held on to this future as a coach, as a speaker, as a trainer. Now, today, as I speak with you, I have been tremendously blessed to have opportunities to stand in front of hundreds, to speak in front of thousands. Zoom has been very helpful, to just get in front of tons and tons of people, speaking to them. You're the man of the hour. You're the main focus. That's you. I've had an opportunity to speak in front of a live audience of about 2,000 people. And from that tiny dream that day, I stood in front of chairs, empty chairs. I stood there and I held a podium and I said, I desire this. But the big question today is, how do you move towards creating that life that you imagine? How do you embrace it? Embrace it. Embracing is an adjective. Is an active word. It's very active in itself. Embracing the future you. And for us to do that, there are certain questions that we must answer. And I'm going to ask you the first one. This is in relation to a question that was asked by my mentor. And he told me, if you close your eyes and go into the future, there is an old Benjamin sitting under a tree. Can you see that? All of you who are watching, there's an old you sitting under a tree, relaxing in your old age. There's an old you sitting under a tree. It's maybe midday. The sun is warm. You're sitting there under a tree. You're relaxing. There's an old you sitting under a tree. That old you requires to be fed, to have a certain lifestyle, to be clothed, to have shelter, and to have their lifestyle maintained, not changed. Now, when you think about you as that future person, what does that future look like? What does your old age look like? What kind of house will you be living in? What will your day be like? What is the car you're driving? What is the food you're eating? Where are you living? What is your lifestyle generally? What is the quality of relationships with your children, with your grandchildren, with your great-great-great-grandchildren? God giving us life. All right? What is your physical health and wellness? What is your spiritual life like? What is your emotional health looking like when you are that person sitting under a tree? Have you thought about that? Have you created that on paper? Or you are hoping that things will go well? And I asked you that question because the very first requirement of creating that future you imagine is to articulate it on pen and paper. Don't let it sit here. Put it down on pen and paper. Put it down on pen and paper. You know, the first thing about imagination, as much as it is one of the powers that God has given us, there's no other creature that has the power to imagine. Dogs, cows, cats, those things just wake up and it's like, oh, it's another day. They can't imagine, oh, my future is going to be like this. No, that has only been given to us as human beings. And even with robots coming up and artificial intelligence, blah, 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 they can't code imagination. Or like, oh, let me imagine tomorrow it's going to be like this. No, that doesn't work. It's only a faculty that has been given, a power that has been given to us as humans. And so imagination is the first step in creating that future you desire. Now, Napoleon Hill, writing in the book Think and Grow Rich on the chapter of imagination, says that man's only limitation is in the use of his imagination. What does that mean? It means that man does not use his imagination correctly. Everybody is using imagination, but how are they using it? I can tell you that more often than not, people are using their imagination in thinking about all the things that could go wrong. All the things that could go wrong. How the future is going to be bleak. Corona is here, I'm going to die. Somebody said, I was having a conversation with someone the other day and they said, eventually all of us are going to get corona. Now, hold up. I'm from a very different belief system. I believe I will not contract corona. Matter of fact, today I'm wearing this jersey, and you see it's written Palm Beach. Palm Beach where? Palm Beach, Florida, or something like that. Yeah, Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah, it's right there. Palm Beach, Florida. In February of this year, I traveled. I was in an aeroplane. The thing that people are saying, don't go there, that's where you get corona. I did over 21 hours flying, and I went into different airports. Think about exposing myself. I was in Chicago. I went to Atlanta. I went to Charlotte. I went to Florida, and then I went to Seattle. That's one leg of the trip, and then coming back through Doha again. Think about that. And then so back to the story. You will have that which you create in your imagination. And for many people, they are creating impossibilities. The use of their imagination, as Napoleon Hill says, is that we use it wrongly. We use it to create all the things that could go wrong. Now, what is the simplest way you and I use imagination? Let me tell you. All of us are using imagination in the most simple way when you imagine what tomorrow is going to look like. I bet for some of you, yesterday, you thought about how today is going to be like. You thought about the clothes you will wear. You thought about how you will look like in those clothes. You even saw yourself in that dress, in that suit, in that shirt, in that whatever that is you're wearing, in those shoes. You saw yourself and like, wow, let me go and take a shower. And then 5-10 minutes before you even take the shower, you're thinking, that one and that one and that one, they are going to match. I'm going to be looking so hot, so fly, whatever. That is imagination. You use it when you think about Monday. How is Monday going to look like? Monday. And you begin to plan your Monday in your head. You're going into the future, you're using your mind's eye, and you're breaking down and saying this is what it could be. That's the use of imagination at the most basic level. But when you think about it for more crucial matters like your life, Napoleon Hill is saying that our limitation, our only limitation, is the way we use our imagination. And by use here, I'm talking about we use it to think about all the things that could go wrong instead of thinking about all the things that we could create that could go well. There's a way in which that we're expecting things will go haywire. And so, the use of your imagination. Question number 2, that is in line with that imagination. When was the last time you sat down for 5 minutes and created your entire future? When was the last time you sat down for 5 minutes and said, this is the kind of income I'm going to have. This is the bank balance in my account. That is my future. I see that. And that this is the physical wellness and health and emotional and spiritual. This is the quality of my relationships with my parents, with my siblings, with my cousins, with my family. And this is the impact that I'm having in the world. This is my career, and this is the impact I'm having. I'm living my purpose. This is how my life looks like. When was the last time you sat down for 5 minutes to travel into the future and create that future that you desire? Because though today's topic is how to create the future you imagine, a lot of the times we are not imagining. So creating it is the next step. And we don't get there. And so my encouragement, what's the big message for all of you who are coming on board? Take dream time every single day. Do you have time to eat? Yes. Do you have time to sleep? Yes. Do you have time to work? Yes. Do you have time to dream? Because the way we have been created by God is we've been given 6 powers. We've been given 6 powers. The first power is intuition. The second power is imagination. The third power is perception. I'm going to talk about this on a later date. The fourth power is will. The fifth power is reason. And the sixth power is memory. These are the 6 powers that God has given us as human beings. Animals don't have this. Artificial intelligence, they don't have this. And so what happens is when we begin to look at the future we desire, we have to hook it with pen and paper and just put it down with the best way, images that you can have, and develop that and see it there and say, okay, this is my future. I'm living in a 6-bedroom house in this address. I'm driving this kind of car. It's costing this much. This is my lifestyle. My children go to this school and my grandchildren go here. And this is where I'm living. This is what my spouse does. You've got to create that. You've got to put it down. And if you don't be surprised that your life is just going for things are showing up and you're like, oh God, what's happening? It's not what's happening. It's you who's not making it happen. And we've been gifted with that intellect to create the future. And that is the faculty of imagination. So take time and write down what that future looks like. The second thing is this. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And faith is not so much a religious concept. It's not a religious concept. It's a concept that God has created. Faith. And what is faith? Faith is the ability to see using our mind's eye, facilitated by the faculty of imagination, a future possibility. And using one of these powers of the mind that I talked to you about, the will, being able to hold that idea to the exclusion of everything else. Hold that one idea to the exclusion of everything else and pursuing it. That That is what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do. The success that I've had in my life, the outcomes that I have created, came from my ability to imagine what I want. The car that I'm sitting in having this call from you from this is my third car. And before I got this car, I imagined the kind of car that I wanted to drive, and I thought about it, and I visualized, and I said, this is what I want, and I put out images of it, and I put it there. And then the next thing, which is what I'm telling you right now, is I had times every single day to just go into that page and to visualize that and to hold it with my will. To hold it with my will. Will is the power of the mind. To hold an idea and to focus on it. There's so many distractions right now in life. There's so many distractions, especially when you go through failure. There's so many distractions when you go through delay. When things are not working out, you've been working on this idea, you've been hoping that it's going to happen, and it's just taking time. It's not manifesting, and you're like, oh my goodness. All the evidence in my life suggests something completely different. And what happens to this idea you're holding? Yeah? If you're thinking of a 6-bedroom house, of a Range Rover, of having a spaceship you go to space in all the time, slowly you begin to let go of this idea, because the circumstances of life are telling you something different. So, step number 1, for those of you who are just coming on, click like and share this video. Number 1, use your imagination correctly. Don't use it to think of all the things that could go wrong. Use it to create what you want in your future. Step number 1. Number 2, the power of the mind that God has given us is the will. The will is the ability to hold an idea, to the exclusion of everything else, regardless of what's happening, as you work towards it. The working towards it, that's another Zoom call, another live call altogether. Working towards this idea, constantly then asking yourself every day, what is required of me? What is required of me to get this? How can I? Every day, how can I? From the day that I stood in front of that empty room full of chairs, and I imagined myself as a speaker, I imagined myself addressing this podium. Do you know what I was doing that day? I had just come from packing equipment into a taxi. And once I put that equipment into the taxi, kaboom, I went back to the church. My life was not coaching. My life was not speaking. There is nothing about what I desired in my imagination was present for me. But I stayed in the question of how can I? Mostly we ask the question, can I? Can I do this? Can I earn $20,000 a day? Can I? And everything in your current circumstances and conditions says no. There's no evidence. How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? And even talk to someone, they're like, you're crazy. Can you humble yourself and do what you're supposed to do? So stay in the question of how. So you've imagined the future, okay? You held it with your imagination, with your faculty of will, to the exclusion of all other ideas. I'm not letting go of this idea. It doesn't matter what the current circumstances and conditions of my life say. I'm holding on to this idea, and I will pursue it. Even if it means me dying, you're going for it, and you hold it with your will. Yeah, we use willpower. We use willpower in certain ways, and we misuse it. Conversation for another day, because what we are like, okay, I'm not going to eat, especially when people are dieting. I'm not going to eat bread for the next 6 years. And you start on day 1, and you're using willpower to hold yourself back from the smell of the bakery as you walk out there. We're using willpower that way. That's a power of mind. Because we're holding on to this idea to the exclusion of everything else. You've used it before. And so similarly, the imagined future, you see it, you create it the way you want it, 100%, nothing else left. Good. Hold it. And then number three is to impress that idea into your subconscious mind so that you become one with it. This is where the work is, and this is where most people don't do the work. To become one with that idea. You see, We've been gifted by God to have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is responsible for thinking about, what am I seeing right now? What's in front of me? It's thinking about, doing the calculations in my head. It's looking at this live feed and seeing those of you who are commenting. I see that. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are not commenting, do something. Comment right there. Thank you so much. And click like and share. The power of the mind that God has given us is our ability really to have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, for the subconscious mind, it does not know the difference between a truth and a lie. In other words, it doesn't know the difference between what I'm seeing right now with my eyes, what you're seeing right now looking at me, and what it sees in a movie. It doesn't know the difference between that. It receives whatever has been impressed onto it by the conscious mind. And for an idea to reach the subconscious mind, the emotional mind, it has to be emotionalized. It has to be emotionalized. When you watch movies and you're watching maybe a movie like Jaws, you remember that shark movie? This girl is swimming and then there's this shark coming. Kerang, kerang. It's swimming over there and you can see her leg flapping and you're like, oh my goodness, the shark is going to eat her. And there you are. Your entire system is alert. You're like, gagang, gagang. Gagang, 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 gagang. Oh! It's a movie. But that thing has gripped you. You've traveled there. You've been emotionalized. You've been captured. Your subconscious mind is at work. And all that it's doing when you are watching is telling you, hey, be alert, be careful. Oh my goodness, it's happening. Oh! That is the subconscious mind. And so for an idea, for our future to become so real for us that it's like the way we are watching a movie, it's so real. It's a movie. You're in your living room. That's a screen. Yeah, and you're on a couch. There's no fish, no whale. There's no water here. Yet you're so caught up. For our future to have the same impact on us as a movie does, that means that it has to be impressed onto our subconscious mind. Then we have to use the principles of autosuggestion. And it's building our faith. It's constantly repeating this and becoming one with that idea. Though my current circumstances are saying that I'm loading equipment onto a taxi to go back, I'm not a speaker, I'm not a coach, I'm constantly with that imagination, that future, I have it. And then I have all the power of the will to hold that idea to the exclusion of everything else. And then through the principle of autosuggestion, I am impressing this idea into my conscious mind, into my subconscious mind. I'm impressing it through repetition, through speaking it, through seeing myself in that space and in that state. That, my friends, is how we embrace the future us. That is how God has created us. Now, is there a process between that seeing and the actualization of the thing? Yes. And through that process, you use the faculties of the mind, the powers of the mind. We've just talked about them. If you want to see them, go back into this live feed. Thank you so much, Moses. Mandela, my good friend. This guy is an amazing man. Thank you, Mandela, for being on here, supporting me so much. This guy is my best man. He was there during my wedding day to say, yeah, I want to walk you through this journey. And he's been very kind and faithful. Thank you, Mandela. I salute you. Thank you for your support here. So we're talking about embracing the future you. If you want to get the story of my life, talk to Moses Mandela. He's gonna tell you how it's unfolded. But this is the thing: embracing the future you begins with you imagining. It begins with you spending time just to think about how is this gonna happen. Some of the subjects that I'm really passionate about is the topic of doubling your income. Having income and impact. That's my mission in life. Every day, the clients that I'm working with in different spaces, coaching them, training them, the virtual academy that we have, it's all about raising leaders to have impact and income. And I want you to think about a triangle. I want you to draw a triangle. Just think of a triangle. in your mind's eye. And that triangle has two lines in between. That triangle has got two lines. And in those two lines, you get three spaces. You get a bottom space, a middle space, and a top space. So triangle, draw one line, draw another line. Now you have three spaces. In the bottom space, I want you to think about B. In the bottom space, B. In the middle space, do. And in the top space, have. So think about your future from this lens of, what do I want to have in my future? Imagine that, create that, spend time articulating that. Go into the future. Have dream time in your day. Go into the future. Number two, what is required of you to do in order for you to have? What must you do in order for you to have? So there are things that you do that will afford you the income. There are things that you will do that will position you as the person creating the impact in a certain space. What impact do you want to have? What income do you want to have? Impact and income, those two, impact and income. What do you want to have in as far as those two are concerned? Write it down, articulate it. That's the first step in embracing the future you. You see, this is what I like. And you've probably heard this, that, a goal, a dream without a plan is a wish. Let me tell you another perspective of that. As co-creators, God is creator, He's called us to co-create with Him those outcomes that are happening into our life. And when we make choices, we are in that process of co-creating with Him that which will happen in our lives. We are gifted with an intellect. And so God is going to impress ideas onto your mind. That future you're calling imagination. We're saying imagination. We're talking about the future that's going to happen 30 years from now, 10 years from now, December 2021. You're thinking about how that event is going to go, how that future is going to go. If it remains in your mind, it's not yet born. If it remains in your mind, it's still in the womb of thought, and it has not been born, and therefore it cannot manifest into the physical reality. If it is just impregnated into your mind from the divine, from God, and is sitting there in the womb of thought, and you're mulling over it, and you're mulling over it, and you're mulling over it, but you never take a pen and paper to write it down, it has not yet been born into this physical world we're seeing trees and cars and other things. All things are created twice. First in the mind, and then where? Next in reality. And so the first step of making and turning your dreams into reality is when you write them down. You write that thing down. Now, all of a sudden, there is a physical evidence that is floating in this world as we know it. There's a physical evidence of that idea. That is the first impression of that idea in the physical reality. But if it remains here, it's never born. And so you have to write it down. You have to write it down. You have to write it down. Write the vision down. Write the dream down. Write it down. Some people are like, no, it's not yet. No, first bath it. It's first bathed on paper. That's the first bath. It's first bathed on paper. And once you bath it on paper, then it becomes a real thing. And now from there, you hold on to it with your imagination and move towards it. And then constantly impress it into your subconscious mind. Impress it into your subconscious mind. And stay in the question every day of, how can I? How can I? So when you think about incomes, let's break it down into practical things right now. When you think about your finances, what is your income now? And if you think about making that income, whatever you earn monthly, think about making that your hourly income. Yes, I said that. Make it your hourly income. I can say that with confidence because I turned my monthly income into a daily income, and then I turned that daily income into an hourly income. And now I'm working towards turning that hourly income into a per minute income. And I've got so much success to show for. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm bulletproof about this. And I'm going on with that idea. Doubling your income, tripling your income, quadrupling your income. That's the future you see and desire. What's that number? Write it down. And every day, spend 5 minutes saying, dear Lord, how do I make this happen? How do I? Staying in the question of how can I, how do I? And then believing that whatever ideas are being presented to you, being willing and obedient. I talked about this in the video that I did, the first one, on embracing the voice of more, being in harmony and working with Spirit, as Spirit is saying, here's an idea. I'd like you to go and do this. Let me tell you this story. I'd been coaching and speaking and training for maybe about 6 years as an independent coach, speaker, and trainer. And I was not happy with the fact that trainings, as you know how they happen, you go in for a full day, the company has hired you, brought you in to do a training, and then they say, okay, we want you to train our people on communication, leadership, customer service, negotiation skills. How can you have all that in one day? And I was not happy with the results that I was getting paid for being there to do the training, but I was not happy with the fact that I was not seeing a lot of impact in the lives of the people that we were training. Those organizations, things were not really happening for them. And I obviously was not earning much because of the way the training industry was set up at that point. And I began to desire something different. And I went down and I imagined what it could be, and I wrote it down, and I said, this is the kind of impact I want to have. I want to be able to see people change in their lives. I want to see businesses impacted. I want to see the bottom line, the return on investment for training. I want to see it happen, and I wrote it down. And I held that imagination I on my walls. I'm this guy who's always, if I don't write it down, then I don't think well. So I write on papers, and my room is full of flip charts all over the place, writing them down. And I wrote, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do. Those ideas had not become reality, just like your future is not yet a reality, but you have to write it down. And I wrote them down, and I wrote them down. And every day I came in and I said, how am I going to do this? 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 And kaboom! The idea came into my awareness. Create a bite-sized learning model. What's a bite-sized learning model? He said, do you know how you eat? You peel a banana and you take a bite, you chew it, and you swallow. And you take another bite, you chew it, and you swallow. When you have a plate of food, you take a scoop, you chew, and you swallow. You don't pour that whole thing into your mouth. Neither do you put an entire banana into your mouth. No, you don't. But that's how we were doing training, and that's the model. And the idea came to me to develop bite-sized learning as a concept, as a model, as a product. It was completely different from what was in the market. And I went into the market with it. And boy, oh boy, have we had significant success in the African region. God is very, very kind, very, very gracious to us now. We're into the United States. And this idea is working. Companies are like, yeah, this makes sense. We want it in bite-sized chunks. And they are taking it online. They are taking it through our online portal. They are taking it in different spaces. If your company is in need of, growth solutions that will help team members really reach their potential, hit us up, benjamin@kamoya.com. Would love to start that conversation with you. And so this is to share with you that as we think about embracing the future that we know is there for us, we have to articulate that future and use our imagination well. Don't think of all that could go wrong. Think of all the things that could go well. Matter of fact, spend all your energy on what could go right, not what could go wrong. And then hold that idea with the faculty of will, and then impress it onto your subconscious mind until you have become one with it. Constantly asking the question, how can I, how can I, how can I, how can I? It's only a matter of time. The future that you imagine is going to unfold for you. I know it. I have lived it. I am going to prove this message because I have futures that I'm living in right now that in the past were, oh my goodness, how will I ever do this? And now I'm also thinking about other futures, things that I could do. And that's why I went into Florida to sit with my mentor to say, can you show me how this is done? I've tried this. Now I'm at a level where I can even travel and say, hey, this is one of the most sought after brains in the space of leadership development and creating outcomes. Now I can go and sit with him. And I sit with him and I said, tell me, how do you create this? I was not able to do this a few years back. It was a struggle. It was not possible. But I held it. And I said, one day I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So as we come to the end of this session today, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who've stayed on, thank you so much for liking and for sharing to get this message out there. What I want you to do is take time to really create that future that you imagine. Let me just sit down and write it. Sit down and write it in these 5 domains. Think about your wellness: physical, spiritual, emotional. Think about your relationships with your spouse, with your children, and with family. That's the second domain. The third domain is financial. Think about investments, income now, and freedom. Think about investments, income now, and freedom. That's the third domain, finances. Think about purpose. Purpose has got to do with your career. It has got to do with significance, impact. You're making an impact. That's the fourth domain. The fifth domain is leadership. Leadership. Who am I becoming? My daily rituals and habits, my communication, my influence. Do I have influence in relevant spheres that I'm supposed to be influential? Those are the 5 domains. Those are the 5 domains that I want you to think about. Relationships, wellness, financial, leadership, and purpose. Those are the 5 domains I want you to think about. And I want you to write down and articulate what it is. If you don't have it written down, my friend, you're in the enemy's camp. You are behind enemy lines. You will be decimated. You will be decimated by reality. Because what are you impressing to your subconscious mind? That you're rudderless. That there's no outcome. You don't know when you have it or where you don't have it. You don't know. And I said it as I close. I'm so passionate about this, I don't want to stop, but I have to stop because of the time here. The way you use your faculty of imagination, when you say tomorrow morning I'm going to wear this tie and this suit, this dress, this skirt, this shoe, and you visualize how you will be smart, how you will enter that meeting and everybody will be like, wow, the perfume you will use, the cologne, and how you will be smelling nice, and how you will enter your car and go and do that meeting, whatever. The way you visualize that, okay, that is the simplest way that you use the faculty of imagination. So go do it for the bigger things of your life. Your finances, your wellness, your relationships, leadership, and purpose. And if you need help with that, I'm here to serve you. Benjamin@kamoye.com. Let's start a conversation. This is why I'm doing this. I want to serve you. And that's what Reinvention Saturdays is all about. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. Please share. Share this video. Don't come off without sharing. That's the least way that you can serve me, in addition to the time that you've given me to add value to you. Until next Saturday, Reinvention Saturdays are here. Catch us on Facebook during the week as I share different ideas, and also on YouTube, Kamoye Benjamin. Thank you so much. Be blessed. Be well. Bye for now. Embrace the future.